Dry earth had been hard to find amidst the flooded shithole that may once have been habitable. But no matter how saturated, the moderately hard ground under my hooves was making my situation far easier. I managed to find cover behind a slab of concrete that had fallen from a ruined walkway above. Unfortunately, several ruined buildings just down the flooded street, including an old weapons factory, still had many intact vantage points, for most of which a group of raiders, which I assumed to be the same group who terrorized Bucktown just a trot's distance down the street, were now peppering the area where we were in a whole assortment of crudely maintained weaponry. Really? I found myself snorting. They were holed up in the frickin' weapons factory and still couldn't use firearms any better than a rusted pile of scrap. The place must have been really picked clean long before they got here. I looked round over the foremost buildings and glistening the collapsed roof of the old factory. The words iron-shod firearms ran with rusted metal upon what still stood of its east wall. Another hail of pitifully inaccurate bullets clattered against the rubble around me the second I made myself visible, and a rather distasteful set of creative profanities followed. I simply sighed. First of all, bullets? How mind-numbingly boring. Nevertheless, I was the one who was out of range. Even my sound blaster's minor spare only saw it hit targets a couple of yards away at best. Instead, upon finding cover, I'd restored to one of the twins. Starter was hunkered down across the street from me inside the rusted skeleton of an overturned sky dragon, the last of which was held above the foul water made by a mound of rubble. My eyes were watching the still bearers of his heavy weapons with a growing frustration towards the fact they were not currently an option. It was both fortune and, it tasted bad to say it, inconvenient that these raiders had been able to hold off their more savage urges long enough to retain numerous captives, and while I was sure Star wasn't one for just blasting the shite out of possibly innocent ponies, my run rule still applied. I just had to find a way to get into the foremost ruins, those that appeared to have once been a cafe. At least a dozen of the bastards were held up on the ground floor, and I could see several more by the upstairs windows. It was at times like this I really wished my Pip-Buck's EFS still worked. Over the street to the left of the cafe, an old concrete walkway stretched over the street. I didn't need any magical assistance to see that such a vantage point had been turned into a shooting gallery, full of more raiders. To my right was that appeared to be a shattered playground. The warped and blackened male skeletons appeared to grow wickedly from the damp earth among bleached vegetation and ruined concrete. On the wall just beyond was a large poster, its image flaking and aged. T-shirt folds at the tank. Taking shelter saves lives, acclaimed in bright lead letters. Below, the image of a turtle, not a tortoise, with a strange mechanical propeller strapped to its back, smiled rather creepily before shooting inside the shell at the side of a fiery orange kaboom. Unfortunately, it didn't seem like anybody got the message. Instead, like some cruel joke, skeletons littered the scorched ground about like fallen leaves. One sat atop the slide as if eternally waiting to wee all the way down. Another leaned against the dune bars of a climbing frame, who was desperately reaching through for the tightly curled remains of several foals. I swallowed. It may have been almost 2 centuries ago, but those ponies weren't monsters. I'd always done what I could to keep monsters at bay. Why else would I be engaging these trigger-happy fuckers up in the factory, instead of simply going around? Yet looking at these made me feel, in some regard, I'd failed a whole nation's worth of ponies, and I was no stranger to failure. Before the thought could fester for too long, however, the rattling rain and gunfire from ahead abruptly ceased. "Think they've scattered?" I heard one rather sickly raider ask. "I don't freaking care. I wanna eat him." Another splurgled loudly, his voice more akin to a wild cackle. In one regard, the latter was an example of the raiders I knew and despised. If only they didn't ask questions, and was so insane they were practically a walking target. Smiling at the idiocy of the savages, I peered across the playground. Between us was a metal mesh fence. A skeleton leaned against it, melted mesh, Four hooves pressed up on the charred wires as if it once tried to scream to the flaying foals only to meet the same balefire-inducing fate. I swift looked past it, over the flooded road, to the gore-decorated front of the old cafe. How did I not notice that? The radio warning was one thing, but the next few blocks practically cried raiders are here. Dried blood and horned tails hang from the old balcony above the door, coating in putrid fluids. Profound crimson text was scrawled over what little remained of the previous establishment sign. The small metal fence that I assumed had once been the outside seating area had been repurposed as a set of trophy spikes. On another obstacle was the skeletal form of a tree that stood between me and the mesh fence. I plotted my course swiftly, seeing my visor's custom targeting peripherals towards the equally perforated walkway to the left. Then I looked at to Star. I'm going in there. The moment I'm clear, give them more holes than a slice of Swiss cheese. For a moment, the gray stallion looked at me disapprovingly. At first, I thought it might have been for something smart like, well, if you don't come out. Or the fact shooting the same amount of firepower in the same direction as an old weapons factory was a stupid idea. Wait, no, I was supposed to be the smart one here. I only just considered that. Regardless, I rolled my eyes, figuring that he was looking for a different reason. No way. It's my turn to kill some of these psychopaths. You'll get your turn next time, I barked, and with that, he reluctantly nodded. Alright, Dragonfire, here goes nothing, I mumbled quietly to myself before bolting around the concrete barrier. A split second later, the raiders seemed to rethink their theory as to whether we'd scour or not, and their hail of rusty old boring was completely redirected towards me. Ow, 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 I whined, as several bullets actually struck home, pinging irritatingly from the dragon's scalp, arding. A second galloping and a bullet ricochets later, I found myself by the charred remains of the tree and slung myself out of the raider's line of sight. The charred wood gave a splintering cracking sound as the rounds dug into its trunk, each splinter a sign from me to get my rear in gear and move. I coughed and took a deep breath. My heart was racing now, my body pumped up on adrenaline. In a brief dash over here, the targeting matrix of my visor had highlighted several ponies up on the walkway in an outline of red. One outline with green. No more targets. 4. It displayed in the top right of my vision. Ah, Helen, I love you so much, I remarked softly. Then the gunfire stopped. Gun the hell out of there, you filthy mew! A staggered voice howled. My eyes widened, ears pressed flat and teeth grinding. What did he just call me? I stood up rolling around the tree and right into their line of fire. My turn! I called loudly as I bolted forwards once more, the plasma rifle held up in my magical grip and opening fire with 3 jizzing bolts of crackling green light. There was a hiss, a grunt, and a bubbling. Liquefaction sound over the rush of my gallop as I reached the door. Hostile targets neutralized, 3. Civilian casualties, 0. A green set of words in my vision confirmed. That'll teach you to call me a mule, I panted to whoever was still alive to listen. A second later, I pressed against the door of the cafe. Hopefully the one friendly pony still up on the walkway still had the intellect to get back down, if there was anything left of it, before any more of them got back up there. A moment later, and I moved over to the door, trying to ignore the warm stiffness that had doused the bricks against my back. Blood was the best it could be, right? Okay, brain, not helping. With a sudden thought of what I assumed was somebody throwing something against the door from inside, it opened. Come on in, a Buck's voice squealed eagerly. I almost yelled be with you in a moment or something in similarly snide tone. But they didn't want to look at a mule now, do they? I looked at my inventory. Everything I had outlined my armor sorting spell. Grenade? Easy, but there be hostages. Damn, I really wish I had an EFS that could really see through walls. No, I need something else. A distraction. I looked at the twisted rings of a cafe table before me, before my eyes focused on another table with a far more void dining surface. I grasped them both in my magic, then placing the solid cover in front of me and then rolled into the open doorway. Here you go! I yelled loudly, tossing the other metal frame into the door. 3 riders exploded from behind the remains of a bloody counter, reducing the mangled table to tattered ribbons in seconds. From just beyond over the cover, my visor took a snapshot of the targets within the room. Damn! I hesitated as it identified 2 green shapes laid in the middle. There were 3 red behind cafe counter, and 1 red who looked to be making back for the back door with 2 more greens. You had better keep them back. You would better keep them back from the factory. A bug, regularly slimmer to the one who had questioned my disappearance only a moment ago, called out. Don't worry about it. We'll see you keep nicely. Sour-toned Merrick read back dismissively. The bug snored, and I paused for a moment listening in. Remember your place, scum. A sharp reply. It was the mayor's turn to growl. Go on. Get back in there with the rest of you filthy meat, she retorted bitterly, her voice heralding the sound of the metal hoof against what sounded like somebody's flank. These sure were some strange raiders? But the possibility some green-lit pony was getting the wrong end of the hard hoof. I spurned myself back into action. Pressing back against the gore-coated wall, I kicked my rolling cover away. Now they were targeted, I could see the outlines through the walls. I'll bet it only in the positions I'd glimpsed them in, but the spell matrix would see to any swept retargeting calibrations. The moment I could see them again, looking closely, I noticed that one of them even had an energy rifle. Strange for a raider. My only thought was to make it mine. Changing to the more fitting weapon of my style blaster, I turned right to the doorway. Sure enough, 3 scarred and bloody faces turned to me. One grizzled mirror from a half-open door in the back wall smiled wickedly. There were several flashes, a sizzle, and a splat on they became 2 piles of flesh and a headless corpse before any of the bullets could find their way to my hide. But still, the decapitating shot saw the energy rifle was undamaged. I fought not to squeal. Allowing my targeting matrix to make out any more hostiles, which had fortunately notified me at 0, I cautiously trotted into the room. The torn carpet was no better than the mud outside. It squelched under hoof, bringing foul-smelling moisture up to my nose as well as the already putrid scent that clung to most raider dens. On the crumbling walls clung a damp, sagging yellow lemon wallpaper, the likes of which was in no better condition than the sewer-saturated floor. The remains of several dining tables, including the one I tossed, sat scattered about like rusted bones. Above desiccated corpses hung like crude decorations, dripping foul ichor into the white carpet. In the shattered remains of the blood-soaked display counter were the several limbs and heads of mutilated ponies, most post-mortem and bloated, dark crimson liquid seeping from every orifice. It was something I said this time I saw a place like this time. But by the goddess, how could anyone be so messed up? I gagged, not realizing there was more. In the far right corner below a ruined flight of stairs, blunted behind their flanks scourged with sharpened metal table legs, removing any trace of a queuing rack were several mutilated corpses. Ones my matrix had not marked. Damn it! Damn it! I mentally cursed, my mind berating me for failure. No. I still managed to get 2, I told myself, swiftly turning to the hostages. One was a yellow unicorn mare, the other a brown stallion. Both lay on soggy, sewage-stained mattresses. The coats were scarred, marred by bites, cuts, bruises, and burns, their flanks red and raw. Looking at them, I knew for sure that these raiders fell under the monster category for sure. Just another reason to go kill them all, I declared as my horn flared brighter and my dragon claw knife joined to the cyan cloud of levitation that suspended my blaster. I'll have you out in a tick, I told them swiftly. They both stared at me, eyes wide in disbelief. No, more slavers! You might kill us as well. Please, no more! The mayor begged, kicking me away for her the best she could while trapped by her bloody bounds. I backpedaled slightly, ashamed that I made myself look like such a despicable thing in some pony's eyes. Setting the mild hurt aside, however, I smiled as firmly as I could. Really? You think a slammer could take out all those savages? I asked, looking back at the counter. All they did was shiver. Okay, so trying to joke with two ponies that had been raped, beaten, and gods know what, these definitely wasn't the best move, Hermione stated flatly. Ha ha. I retorted mentally before slowly forward moving and carefully cut the ropes. No, I'm not a slaver. I can earn an honest living, thank you very much, I explained, breaking the bonds about her rear hooves. She trembled before twitching her recent unbound limbs, grimacing at the pain and numbness. At least she hadn't said I was a merc yet, and even in that line of work I tried to be honest, like some of the treacherous backstabbing scum that worked as mercenaries. I'd like to see what a talent do what I just did, without getting some extra caps on the side for the trouble. With another heavy heart and tearful eyes, I cut her ropes with some careful swing of my dragon's claw. I freed the poor mane, before swiftly moving on to the stallion. He seemed a little better for his trouble. I just guess those mares were more appealing? I abruptly cut off that train of thought, no brain, or something wasn't that horrifying. The other mare just stared at me, wide-eyed and painful tears as I freed her battered companion. You're real, aren't you? She coughed in a frail and broken voice. Sure hope I am, I replied while releasing the stallion from his final bond. You are. They have more of us up in the factory. Mr. Red just took Sugar Cube and squeezed some back up there. You. The mayor's words flooded out in a wild torrent, the realization that I wasn't some slaver like a barrel fire bomb against the dam of her concerns. Mr. Red? I softly made a connection between what she'd said and the buck I glimpsed leaving with two other green-lit ponies. So I was right to be suspicious. He doesn't strike me as a hardcore raider, especially when he asks a reasonably sensible question. Without realizing my knife gnawed through the last strings of the buck's blooded wounds, he flinched downwards, jumping up into me as I staggered back from him. Raider victims. Well, that's right. They get touchy about strangers laying a hoof on them. Touchy is not a good idea. My brain mocked it condescendingly. The quivering form of the buck only reinforced that patronizing sentiment as he fought to rise to his hooves. Then the dull eyes of a broken soul looked at me for a long moment and through the tint of my visor. I regarded their green outlines. Not monsters. Well done, Dragonfire. Good job. Just an unknown amount more to go. How do I get to the factory floor from here? I asked, glancing back at the door this Mr. Red had taken. There was simply no reply from the pair. Well, thank you would certainly be nice, I moaned mentally, trying not to open my muzzle as the somewhat selfish statement crossed my mind. They had us gagged and blindfolded most of the time. But that alley there, I'm sure that's... The mayor's words were staggered and fleeting. The moment I resumed eye contact with her, she became silent again. The buck, however, gave a frail nod in agreement. You should get out of here. My partner's outside. Don't worry, he's friendly. Before I could finish, the pair had lashed into the opportunity and fled through the crooked door. Wow, so grateful. Shut up, Brain. A second later, I made my way back around the counter, maker to salvage the energy rifle and its respective ammo, as well as any other loot the corpses offered as I entered that alleyway. Behind me, a mangled wall of metal and rotted wood formed a barricade between the alley and the flooded street. Ahead, along the long, shrouded space, was the rear of the iron shed factory. Above the alleyway, guts and flayed skin was hung like laundry lined between the two buildings. The words F off written in blood on the side of the rusted old dumpster to the right. It was also met by several more wickedly smiling ponies, likely excited to have some fresh meat to F and beat. They were armed and taking cover behind the dumpster. Two were swiftly dispatching the first time they exposed their heads to fire. The third and fourth managed a few shots against my scouts before I charged at them. The first, a silky brown mane clad in blooded spiked armor, was met by my hind hooves. I opened with a bug to the face, and unlike the sparkle cola balls that formed part of her crude helmet claimed, this assault lacked radishes. The second raider I slashed with my dragon claw, my magical grip bringing the serrated blade across her throat as she tried to bite down on my rusty shotgun. The lash left her bleeding corpse on the flooded asphalt. I looked to the second mirror silently, her host clenching a face that was not but a bruised mess scared by the sharp glass of her shattered glasses. I pinned the heavy forehoof hard on her chest, stopping her riding. "Where the hell are you ponies doing here?" I demanded. "What do you think, Dragonfire? The raiders, you know what they do." That, Brain, was my point. I'd seen raiders, I'd seen slavers, I'd seen both together, and never were they this organized or chummy with one another. The bloody mare gave a hiss more akin to a rattletail than a pony. A barrel zap, zap, pressed against her mess upsoured her, well, to resist somewhat. "Told you you'd see some action, little guy," I mentally remarked, as if it could somehow telepathically understand my thoughts. "There's Mr. Red. He comes in here asking for ponies when we're done with him. Racing skulls up in the mines need them, so they pay more for double-bodied ones. He's a lot more lenient than their health, though. He only cares that he can put 'em into slaving in his mines." The mayor muttered as if such a long sentence were hard for a small man to formulate. Her bloodied eyes seemed to have no such problem as they fixed on me, waiting for any slip. She was looking in the wrong place, and her own eyes narrowed as if our staves were more lethal than our guns or hooves. "Where?" The casual implications of her past confession forced my thoughts to slip through gritted teeth. "Up in the factory, second floor office. He don't let us up there. That figure," she explained resentfully, only supporting my theory that raiders and slavers seldom cooperated. At her confession, I scowled. Whenever I had to deal with a factory, it was usually robots. Well, this threw that track record out from the metaphorical window. Problem was, this place was going to be crawling with raiders. My other problem was that even if this was not a part of our job in a way, I was not leaving a potential town's worth of ponies to fall into slavery. Glancing up at the factory wall above the alleyway, I had an idea. Placing my hoof on the squirming raider, I wrapped her firmly in my magic. "I'll be right back," I lied happily, tossing her into the rusted old dumpster before fastening a strap with one of the chains that had been hanging their gory decorations from above and leaving her there. Doors. The one on the right was open and emitted the foulest of smells. The left was closed, a barred window separating it from the catwalks above the factory door. Below, two large rows of solid cages sat among the old remains of the factory's production lines, as well as the bad remains of robots that had once guarded the place. Who would have laughed at the thought how many raiders had killed themselves trying to best the security bots, if it were not for them shooting up at me? Unfortunately, despite Star's timely intervention through the rear loading doors, some of the efforts had managed to get to cover, leaving both of us as targets. Worse still, he was swiftly catching up to me on kill score. The sudden roar of his minigun often heralded my cursing and regain of his escalating kill amount. I, meanwhile, had managed to sneak in through the upper floor's fire escape, the likes of which I'd seen from the alleyway. I managed it would be the easy way. I guessed that far too soon, however. The fact was only made more evident as bullets struck the roof above me. Moving swiftly forward along the catwalk, I was struck with a sharp dash as pain as another shot grazed my undercarriage. The two more struck my left foreleg. "Guys, when I designed this stuff, I didn't expect to be crawling above the damn bullets," I hissed to myself as I reached the far factory wall and leaning back against it. More gunshots sounded over the roar of Star's minigun and the raiders' profane shouting. I frowned angrily, my horn flaring. I found myself staring right at the sign upon the opposite wall. It was rather amusingly iron-shod firearms. How do you like them apples? The latter words crossed my mind as my magical grip tore off two of the fixed roof lights free and proceeded to smash them down onto several raiders below. How do you like them apples? I shouted as I vented my frustration. Rolling back onto my hooves, and with the upward flank temporarily cold, I retrieved a set of magical healing bandages from my saddlebag and swiftly wrapped them about my scathed forehoof. God, I certainly hate bullets. That's why I went to the trouble of killing a dragon to ensure I didn't get riddled with any. I complained to myself as I approached what was once the factory office, before bucking the door open with a firm kick of my hoofs. Don't move another inch. A white-coated unicorn buck with a red mane and cutie mark that was strangely nothing more than a red square declaring dryly. His sharp scarlet eyes were narrowed as his magical aura levitated a revolver to a head of a pink-coated unicorn mare at his side. My expression wrinkled in frustration. Why did every pony seem to know about my one rule? Surely they didn't assume any pony else was decent enough not to shoot innocent ponies out here. Looking to the left of I saw a disc, complete with terminal and an old photo of a sandy yellow earth pony buck with brown leather vest and rodeo hat, rearing up on the desert ridge. It was sunset, or rise, I couldn't tell, in the background. Finally, in the craggy wall of flaking blue wallpaper below, it was a wall safe. Before the dark steel box, laying motionless on the worn green carpet, were two mirrors, both bearing a bullet wound through their skulls. Sugar cube and sweet sun, I assumed sadly, but their white sugar cube and beamed of sun-like cutie marks. Gotta screw this guy. I'd known him for a moment and he was already right at the top of my to-kill list. My visor seemed to agree as if fought to distinguish between him and the mirror pressed close against his side. Behind him was to his right another eye-stinging sight, a barbed cage far in the dome, within which a dull blue mare was curled with her back to me. She seemed to be sobbing. Monsters? My vision became redder than the eyes of my new opponent, and yet I lowered my weapon. Mr. Red, I assumed, looked at me with a cold smile, the mare beside him appearing strangely ashamed, and her eyes seeming begging forgiveness for this predicament. That look on her face didn't do anything to line my frustration. It wasn't her fault that she was a slave. God, that's a good pony. Now drop it, he said with a firm stamp of his hoof. Sure enough, the magical field around my saddle blaster evaporated and it fell to the carpet. Mr. Red smiled as his own crimson magic fell to my weapon. Now the wrist, he almost purred, retrieving the rest of my energy weaponry and turning them all with their barrels pointed at me. Those guns? The chances of me surviving a shot from each one? Even with my barding? No. I was made sure. Besides, I was more bothered about the strangely cold betrayal I felt to see him aimed at me, only for the chilling pit within me to begin to boil. This book had crossed the line, and my eyes narrowed dangerously. Now, you're going to be a good little filly and call down to your friend. Tell him to stop, he asked coolly, his expression far too relaxed. Our eyes locked as my failure to move challenged him. He stepped forward and away from the pink unicorn side, his confidence growing with the intention of my arsenal. Please do as I ask. I don't have all day, he asked politely. In the corner of my eyes, I glimpsed the pink mare tentatively slip away from the gun levitating beside her. Mr. Red failed to notice. His sadness gaze was locked on me like a newly found vendetta. I can't imagine working with a bunch of raiders. Are they giving you a hard time? I asked, distracting this fool of a stallion as the mare in the background crept back. He seemed strangely intrigued by that. Yes, you couldn't imagine how difficult managing this knot is. They try to have me killed daily. Now, if you please. He mentioned one of my plasma rifles to the open doorway. I turned slightly. You know, I never thought you brazens were the type to stoop so slow. I taunted, knowing full well being a slaver was about as low as any pony could get. negating pure sanity, of course. His cool expression didn't falter. He just smirked. "You could say they're under new management," he told me. I gave a fake dry laugh. "Yeah, hasn't done much for you peripherals, though," I said smugly. He cocked an eyebrow in confusion before the photo from the desk, or more accurately, its metal frame smashed hard into the back of his head. I leapt forward as he staggered and blindly fired off all four of my guns into the spot I just occupied. There was another loud crack as the revolver also fired, followed by a sharp yelp as the stray bullet shot struck my would-be savior in the hind hoof as she stumbled. Rearing up, it came down to the buck's chest with my forehooves. My horn began to glow with more than just telekinesis as I pressed into his heart. "Nice shot," I declared as I focused my magic and cast a bolt of glowing blue flame right into his chest. The buck screamed and his heart melted out of his torso, and the smell of charred flesh filling the room. Then he gagged at the last gasp of air before falling limp. "They never learn, stupid ponies," I added, spinning onto his sorry flank as I stepped back and recovered my stolen guns with extreme prejudice. Over the fading sound of gunfire downstairs, I could hear the pink unicorn mare spill a wax of weak curses and uncontrollable sobs as she clenched her right hind hoof lightly. "Here, use one of these," I advised, striding over and offering up one of my magical healing bandages. She looked at the magically regimented medical supplies cautiously, but the look of her bruised hind, burn marks and wounds, I could tell that she not had it easy. I bet easier than worse I had saved in the cafe, but still not easy. "Don't worry, I'm not a slaver," I assured her with a kind smile. One of these two gestures must have been right as she tentatively took my offer of aid, forcing to work on wrapping the bandages about her hoof. One hostage secure, I thought to myself while trying to avoid looking at the two ponies I'd failed to save. There was nothing more I could do for them, and if I let it get to me, it would destroy me like it had to so many other ponies before. So I focused my attention to the crudely built cage in the far corner of the room, the likes of which looked out of place in the mostly neat office. Upon opening what I assumed was a door, if not, oh no, I just broke some piece of shy cage. I found a raider. A frickin' waiter pony. Wait, what? My mind boggled. It was a raider, but not a run up and eat your face off raider. She was curled up around something and sobbing heavily. Wait, what? I mentally backtracked again. Raiders didn't do this. They were not smart, not organizing, certainly didn't cry. Not cautiously, anyway. My anger dwindled, my horns glow, weakening its grip on my weapons. There was a raider. A monster? Damn it, dragon. Do your job. It's okay to kill monsters. But no. My eyes went as the sobbing mare uncurled to reveal a tiny foal, barely a few weeks old. A mother? My eyes fell flat against my skull, and I staggered back in terror. No, 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 not this. No, no, screw you, wasteland. I knew what you were up to. No, 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 not this. The sobbing raider cackled loudly as the little foal pulled something from her hoof. "It was Mommy's good little boy," she croaked dryly. There was a soft beep, then another as I saw the mine and the laughing foal's tiny hooves. My eyes went wider than they'd ever been. My heart stopped abruptly. Then I jump-started with more power than the Bale firebomb. My arm flashed telekinesis wrapping around the closest thing. It turned out to be the desk and the pink mare I just saved. Instinctively, I dived back behind the overturned desk, taking my uneasy pink companion with me. There's another beep and a childish giggle. In that unbearably still moment, the world felt as if it had died. Then it was followed by a deafening boom. Fountain. Level up. New perk added. Barnstormer. Level 1. You know how to clear a building, even if it's your own special way. Gain 10 perception when attacking enemies from the outside of a structure.